Threads of Fate. Chapter 1. The unraveling begins. In the bustling city of Lumen, a place where technology had reached unthinkable heights, a young woman named Evelyn Beck stood in front of an old, dusty bookstore. The shop, hidden among the towering glass and steel buildings of the metropolis, seemed out of place. Its faded sign read Threads of Fate, a name that always intrigued Evelyn whenever she passed by. Today, however, something was different. An inexplicable pull in her chest made her push open the door, a soft chime ringing as she entered. Inside, the air smelled of old paper and mystery. Shelves lined the walls, each one filled with volumes of forgotten knowledge and ancient texts. In the far corner of the shop stood an elderly man, his back bent with age but his eyes sharp and clear. He was no stranger to Evelyn, though they had never spoken. She had often seen him peering out the window, watching the world pass by with a quiet contemplation. "Ah, you've come," the man said, his voice soft but resonant. Evelyn nodded, uncertain of what had drawn her in. "I don't know why, but something told me I needed to be here." The old man smiled, his wrinkled face creasing like a map of the past. "Sometimes the threads of fate weave us into places we don't understand, but they always lead us where we need to go." Evelyn blinked. "Threads of fate?" He nodded and motioned for her to approach. "Come, I have something to show you." He led her to the back of the store, where a large, intricately carved wooden table sat on it. A tapestry of sorts was spread out, a complex web of threads, some bright and vibrant, others dark and fraying at the edges. It was alive, shifting ever so slightly, as if responding to unseen forces. "These are the threads of fate," the man explained. "Every person has one, stretching across time and space, connecting every choice, every moment. And sometimes they cross paths in ways that change everything." Evelyn stared at the tapestry, mesmerized. "And what does this have to do with me?" "Everything," he replied, his gaze fixed on her. "You've come to a crossroads, Evelyn. The thread you walk is about to diverge into something new, and the choice you make will shape your future in ways you cannot yet imagine." Chapter 2. The Weight of Choice. Evelyn's mind swirled with confusion as she left the bookstore. The elderly man's words echoed in her mind. "The choice you make will shape your future." What did that even mean? She had always lived a predictable life, working at a tech company as a data analyst, content with her quiet existence. But now, the fabric of her reality seemed to be rippling with uncertainty. As she walked through the crowded streets of Lumen, Evelyn couldn't help but notice how different everything looked. The glass buildings that once appeared so imposing now seemed fragile, like they could shatter at any moment. The people around her walked with their heads down, faces lost in their screens, as if oblivious to the world around them. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, pulling her from her thoughts. It was a message from her best friend, Lily. "Eve, are you free for dinner tonight? I need to talk to you about something important." Evelyn hesitated. Lily's messages were rarely this urgent. The last time Lily had seemed serious was when she had talked about quitting her job to start a new life. Was disconnected. "Sure, I'll meet you at the usual spot. As the evening drew near, Evelyn found herself at their favorite cafe, a quiet little place nestled between two towering office buildings. She spotted Lily immediately, sitting at their usual table by the window, her face tight with worry. Eve, Lily began, her voice low. I don't know how to say this, but something strange is happening. Evelyn sat down across from her, intrigued. What do you mean? Lily hesitated before continuing. I've been seeing things, visions, flashes of moments that haven't happened yet. I don't know what's real anymore. Evelyn's heart skipped a beat. She remembered what the old man had said about fate's threads. Could this be connected? Have you tried to figure out why? Evelyn asked carefully. Lily nodded, her hands trembling. I think it has something to do with a choice I made recently. And I think it's starting to affect you too. Evelyn froze. Me? Lily looked out the window, her eyes distant. I don't know how to explain it, but I believe we're both tied to something much bigger than us. Something is pulling at our threads, and it's going to change everything. Chapter 3. The Unseen Force. Days passed, and Evelyn found herself drawn deeper into the mystery of her fate. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching, something lurking just beyond her perception. She kept replaying Lily's words in her mind. I believe we're both tied to something much bigger than us. It wasn't long before Evelyn began experiencing the same strange flashes that Lily had described. In the middle of a routine meeting at work, she saw a glimpse of herself standing at the edge of a cliff, gazing out over a vast ocean. The image was gone as quickly as it appeared, leaving her breathless and disoriented. What did it mean? That night, Evelyn returned to the bookstore. She had to understand more about these threads of fate. The old man was still there, as if waiting for her. You've come back, he said, his voice filled with knowing. Evelyn nodded. I've been seeing things, visions. And my friend Lily, she's been seeing them too. What's happening to us? The old man gestured to the tapestry on the table. The threads that bind us are not always linear. They can twist and tangle, sometimes bringing people together in ways that defy logic. What you and your friend are experiencing is not a coincidence. The choice you make, both of you, will determine how the tapestry unfolds. Evelyn's eyes narrowed. But what if the wrong choice is made? What if I don't know what to do? The man sighed, his hands gently brushing the tapestry. There are no wrong choices, Evelyn, only paths that lead to different ends. But every choice creates a ripple, a shift in the fabric of time, and those ripples can alter everything. Evelyn's head spun. But what if the ripple is too strong? What if it destroys everything? The man met her gaze, his expression solemn. That is the burden of the threads of fate. The weight of every decision, every moment, is carried by those who walk it. Chapter 4. The Convergence. Days turned into weeks, and Evelyn could no longer ignore the sense of impending change. The flashes continued, each one more vivid than the last. She saw herself in places she had never been, speaking to people she had never met. The images grew more intense, more real, as if she were living them in parallel worlds. Then, one evening, Lily reached out again. Eve, I think I've found it. The choice we need to make. Evelyn met Lily at the cafe, her heart racing. What did you find? Lily handed her a small, worn book. I found this in the old bookstore, the one we've been talking about. It's a journal. written by someone who walked the same path we are. It describes how the threads of fate can be manipulated, how one can choose a destiny. Evelyn flipped through the pages, her mind reeling. The journal detailed a process of decision-making, of carefully choosing one path over another, and the consequences of those choices. But as Evelyn reached the last page, she stopped cold. The final sentence read, "The threads can be severed, but at a cost, and once severed, there is no going back." "What does that mean?" she whispered, fear creeping into her voice. Lily didn't answer. She just stared at the page, her face pale. Evelyn's heart sank. The choice before them was no longer simple. It was a matter of life and death, of fate itself, and whatever path they chose, the threads of fate would never be the same again. Chapter 5. The Final Choice. The day arrived when Evelyn and Lily stood together at the crossroads. The air was thick with tension, and the world around them seemed to hold its breath. "We have to make the choice," Evelyn said, her voice trembling. "But what if we choose wrong? What if we can't handle the cost?" Lily took a deep breath. "We'll never know unless we try." Evelyn nodded, her mind racing. She looked at the tapestry in her hands, the threads of fate before her, each one shimmered alive with possibilities. She could feel the weight of the decision pressing down on her, each path stretching out like an infinity of potential outcomes. "You know," Lily said softly, "maybe it's not about right or wrong. Maybe it's about trust." Evelyn took one last glance at the threads, her heart steadying. She didn't know what the future would hold, but she knew one thing for sure. The choices they made today would shape the world to come, and with that, they stepped forward, together, into the unknown.